Hey yo, I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be making a prediction video for UFC Way 1. My last prediction video that I made for the Brendan Allen versus RDR card, it went downhill. Like none of the picks that I think I got all my picks wrong, probably. I'm not sure about it, but a lot of my picks were wrong. But today, I believe that in this video, the picks that I will make are going to be better compared to the picks that I made the other video. All right. Now, without any further ado, let us start today's video. I'm going to start from the early prelims and then move up to the main card and eventually the main event. And this is a really good card, like arguably one of the best cards of the year. Like definitely one of the best cards of the year. Probably one of the best cards in a really, really long time. I mean, look at the main card. The co-main event is not exactly that great, even though it's for the belt. Like both of these fighters are not exactly entertaining. But look at the rest of the card. I mean, it's really good. Let's start from the early prelims. This might be a really long video. I'll try to make it short because I don't really like to edit too much. So first fight is between Jacqueline Amorim versus Mizuki Inoue. Mizuki Inoue has not fought since 2023. She's quite an underdog, a moderate underdog, and Jacqueline Amorim, he is a heavy favorite. I'm gonna go with Jacqueline Amorim to win this fight by an unanimous decision, most probably, because I do not know anything about these two fighters. Prelims. The second prelim. Azad Matsumi is gonna fight against Mitch Repso. Mitch Repso, I don't know much about him. He's 27 years old. He has lost against Andre Lima and Sumadarji. Sumadarji split decision loss against Andre Lima and Sumadarji. Prior to that, he defeated Justin Valentin. I have no idea who these fighters are. He has not fought the contender series, and it's the best. And then you got Azad Maksum in there. Azad Maksum, on the other hand, is 30 years old. I think he has fought a couple of times in UFC. More than a couple, to be honest. He has fought 3 times in UFC. He lost to Charles Johnson at the Gearwheel Backup. Charles Johnson is the same person who defeated Joshua Vet. So Charles Johnson is actually a really good fighter. And Tagarul and Bekov, we already know he's from Team Habib. So he has fought against 2 good competitors. And Mitch Repso, I don't know much about him. So I'm going to go in Azad Maksum to defeat Mitch Repso by unanimous decision. Most probably a 30-27 or maybe a 29-28 for Azad Maksum. Third featured prelim. Chris Burnett, who's going to fight against Hamdi Abdelwahab. I'm going to go with Hamdi Abdelwahab because Chris Burnett is the boy. I don't know, my Chris Barnett does not really have a lot of, he's not exactly a real heavyweight. The dude is 5'9", which is loaded like 3 inches taller than me. So he is really short. Like I've got a friend who's like 5'9", he weighs hardly like 120, 130 pounds, 140 pounds at max, 145, 150. I don't even think, yeah, probably like 155, not more than that. Like Chris Barnett is 100 pounds more than that. Like this guy is an overweight person. He's not a fighter. Like he's not a heavyweight. He's just an overweight welterweight, overweight middleweight. He's an obese middleweight fighter. Not even middleweight, like he's an obese lightweight fighter. 5'9" is a good height for a lightweight fighter. And this guy is fighting at heavyweight. And Hafti Abdelwahab, he lost his last fight. He does not really have a lot of experience under his belt, but he's a good grappler, I'm assuming. He lost against Muhammad Usman. Again, that is not exactly a great look either. Like losing to Muhammad Usman is not exactly a great look because Usman's brother was on roids. That's another thing. I'm gonna go with Abdul Wahab to win this one, probably by a split decision or maybe a unanimous decision. This is a good fight. Jose Delgado and Tenilo. Jose Delgado is on a really good winning streak and he's on a 7-5 winning streak. His last loss was against Chris Pasete. Unanimous decision that was back in 2023. And he has had 2 fights in 2025, defeated Conor Matthews and Hyder Amil. Hyder Amil was actually a good fighter. Like he's a good fighter. And to knock him out in the very first round in 26 seconds, that's pretty slay. Jose Delgado is pretty big. He's pretty big for the featherweight division, 5'11". Who else is 5'11"? I believe Max Holloway is 5'11". And Sean Hudson is 6'1", so he's a giant. Paddy Pimblett is 5'11". So he is pretty big. He's big even for the welterweight. This guy could potentially move up to the lightweight division in future. And Nathaniel Wood is pretty small for the featherweight division. He's significantly smaller than majority of the fighters that he fights. He's 5'6". He's as tall as me. Interesting. I cannot make feather. Yeah, featherweight is what, 70 kgs? So he's fighting at 70 kgs. So his actual weight must be around 80, 75 to 80 kgs. 80 kgs for a guy like 5'6". Yeah, I think that's a little too much considering his output and his frame. He's not exactly a really bulky guy. Like, he's not exactly a super bulky like uh, he's not a Matisse Rebecca kind of a physique, right? He defeated Morgan Sherrier, he defeated Daniel Pinada, he lost to Muhammad Naimo by Onege Sonderfili, defeated Charles Jourdain, Charles Rosa. Like the dude, like he has a lot of win in his career, but does not really have a lot of finishes. He defeated John Dodson, that's in 2020, and John Dodson was still in UFC. But apart from that, like he does not really have a lot of finishes. And he fights once a year, like he fights 2 fights in a year. But in 2024, yeah, and 1 fight in 2024. He now has had 1 fight in 2025, with his second fight in 2025. And he's a much smaller fighter, does not really have a lot of finishing potential. And Jose Delgado is a young gun. He's like young and hungry, pretty big for the division. I'm going to go with Jose Delgado to win this one, probably by a TKO. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe Wood can get a decision with, but I'm going to go with Jose Delgado to win this one, probably by a TKO. Okay. Walter Walker is finally getting an opportunity to fight. His last fight was against Kamaru Usman's brother, who apparently tested positive for some banned substance. And due to that reason, Walter Walker could not fight with him, because when you do not have an opponent, who the hell are you going to fight against? And now I'm more worried about Usman. Like Kamaru Usman, was he also on some banned substances? That might be true. He's fighting against this guy, Luis Wonderland. The dude looks like he's on all kinds of excellent supplements. Like this guy is definitely on all kinds of supplements. He's 31 years old, very young, to be honest, for the heavyweight divisions. He hasn't fought anybody in UFC. He was supposed to fight against Justin Tafa, but that fight did not take place. And whoever he has fought against, he levels fight league. Whatever the hell this is supposed to be, he lost in Bellator. Uh, I don't know it. Like, I do not really have high hopes from this guy. He's from Europe. I'm going to go with Walter Walker to win this one, probably by a KO. Yeah, because that seems like he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Is he? Yeah, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. And he defeated Junior Dafa by heel hook, Totel Mayers by heel hook, Daddy Nechchuku by heel hook. I'm going to go with Walter Walker to win this one by a heel hook, because this guy does not look like this same person. If he shows up like this, then he's definitely on something. And we do not have Lusada anymore, but this is whatever. This guy is on something. So I'm going to go with Walter Walker to win this one by heel hook. El Salvadi versus Matthews Camilo. I do not know anything about these two fighters, so I'm going to skip this one. This could be the fight of the night potential. This fight has the potential to be the fight of the night. And the reason I say that, because Matthews Rebecki, in his last 2 fights, he probably got nominated for the fight of the year candidates. Like in his last fight against Chris Thompson, which took place in August, like both him and Chris Thompson were bleeding like crazy. Even though Chris Thompson won that fight by unanimous decision, but Matthews Rebecki also put a lot of damage on Chris Thompson. He put a ton of damage on Doctor. And he looked good in that fight. Like, he did not look good. Like, none of them look good. They look really bloody. They just both were fighting. They were not exactly technical, but it was just more of who has more willpower. The same thing happened in his fight against Matthews Miekte Korolbai. In that fight against Miekte Korolbai as well, he took a lot of damage, and he also gave a lot of damage to Orolbai. Orolbai was bleeding from his eye. Not exactly bleeding, but his eye was completely swollen shut. That is, I think it was his left eye, and he could not see anything from that left eye. Still, he continued fighting, and he lost that fight by a decision. Then he won against this guy, Tofik Kusayev. Basically made him look like a nobody in that fight. For Matthews Rebecki, he took a lot of damage. Like in the last 1 year, he has taken a lot of damage. One in that fight against Diego Ferreira, in that fight against Furby, is Duncan. This guy has taken a lot of damage, but he is a tank. That's what I'm trying to say. He's a real tank. He's not exactly super tall. He's 5'7", but he looks like he's 5'8", 5'9". Like, he looks like a much bigger fighter because he's really jacked. I think that puts a lot of effect on his cardio as well. And he's going to fight against Ludovic Klein, who's also really well built, even though he's also 5'7", but he looks much smaller compared to Rebecca. And in his last fight, he lost against Matthews Cameron, but again, Cameron took him down. We saw that there is holes in his grappling. That again, he has defeated Thiago Moises, AJ Cunningham, Ignacio Bahamondes, Jai Arbor, and a draw against Jai Arbor. That's not a good thing. Defeated Mason Jones. Mason Jones is a tank. Like, this guy is a tank. He is a solid tank. So if he defeated Mason Jones, then I'm going to say that he will be capable of defeating Matthews Rebecca. So I'm going to go with Ludovic Klein to win this one, probably by a unanimous decision or maybe a TKO for Ludovic Klein. Klein has not really finished a lot of his fights. He did defeat AJ Cunningham by body kick, but after that, a decision win against Thiago Moises and Roosevelt Roberts. Up to go with Ludovic Klein to win this one, probably by a unanimous decision, because I feel like he will be more talented, like he will be more skilled, not exactly talented compared to Matisse Rebecca. So I believe that Ludovic Klein might have more fight IQ compared to Rebecca. So I'm going to go with Ludovic Klein to win this one by unanimous decision. Ikram Aliskerov versus Jung Young Park, the Iron Turtle. The Iron Turtle is on a 2-fight winning streak, whereas Ikram Aliskerov is on a 1-fight winning streak. And the 2 losses that Ikram Aliskerov has had in his career has come from 2 UFC champions, Robert Whittaker and, of course, by Hamzat Chimaev, where he got knocked out in the very first round. That is something that we need to be worried about. I believe that he has a problem with his chin. But I believe, and both Chimaev and Robert Whittaker has decent power. Chimaev has a lot of power in his hands. Again, he's a Sambo fighter. I believe he was a Sambo national champion or something. I'm not exactly sure. He's 32, he's a decent size middleweight, not exactly super big for the weight division. He's a decent size middleweight, has good grappling, has good striking as well, versus Jung Young Park, who has a lot of cardio, he has a lot of experience. He's 34, not exactly really old, but he's pretty old compared to Aliskerov. I believe Aliskerov is 32, not exactly that old. He's only like 2 years older than Aliskerov. So he's 5'10". He's pretty small for the middleweight division. 5'10" and middleweight is pretty small in today's middleweight scenario. Because majority of the fighters are really big. When you look at the Dricus du Plessis, Hamza Chimaev, like they're really big for their weight division. Adesanya is pretty big. RDR is pretty big. So he's pretty small for the division, but still, he has been capable of defeating Ismail Narudiev and Brett Tavares. But still, I'm going to go with Ikram Aliskerov to win this one, probably by a finish. Because I believe Aliskerov does not really have a lot of decision wins in his career. Like, look at it. Like, all the fights that he has won in UFC are all finishes. His last decision was against Nashon Purnell in 2022. So I'm going to go with Ikram Aliskerov to win this one by a TKO, maybe in round 2 TKO for Ikram Aliskerov. If it goes to the decision, there is a good chance that Jung Young Park might win the decision. It is the Iron Turtle has a lot of experience as well as endurance, durability. So there is a possibility. But I'm gonna go with Ikram Aliskerov. I think he's more of a. I think he's easily I think he's the heavy favorite. Yeah, he's a moderate favorite. Still, I'm gonna go take the favorite. Nasrat Hapuras versus Anshul Jubli's what not even arch nemesis. Like, he destroyed Anshul Jubli, Killer Salkin. He has lost only 1 fight in his entire career. That was his debut against Pablo Torelli back in 2021. But the thing with Ilan Salkin is that he has defeated Anshul Jubli and Yanal Asmus. Yanal Asmus is not exactly a great fighter. 8-2 record, not exactly a great fighter. So I'm not really sold on Kilan Salkin. Like, he's really young, he's 25. There is a possibility that when he grows up, like when he gets older, when he gets more experience, he will be a really solid competitor, a really solid contender in lightweight. There is a possibility of it. But on the other hand, Nasrat is one of the better unranked lightweight fighters in the UFC, because look at his record. Like, he has defeated Lord Quinones, Demi Monarchy, that was a good win. Split decision win against Jared Burden, not exactly a great win. But then again, he had a split decision win against Esteban Repovics. And for those of you who do not know, this is Repovics. And Repovics defeated Elvis Brenner, Daniel Zaluber. Like, Repovics is a really solid fighter. And to defeat Repovics, even though it was by a split decision, that shows that Nasrat has really good striking. He has good fight IQ and he's training at a TriStar gym. And TriStar recently seemed to be doing well with Ayman Zahabi, that is Firaz's brother, and TriStar at one point of time had the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, that is KSP, George St. Pierre was training under TriStar. So they definitely have the, like, once, if you are a good fighter, then they will help you become a better fighter. And if Ayman Zahabi can get a win against Chito Vera, get a win against Jose Aldo, then I'm going to assume that Nasrat Haqparast has the necessary tools and skills to defeat somebody like Kylian Salkin, who's really unchallenged and really untested. So I'm going to go with Nasrat Haqparast to win this one by a unanimous decision against Kylian Salkin. All right? Yep. Let's move on. Another interesting fight. Alexander Rakic is going to fight against Azmat Murzakanov. Now, Azmat Murzakanov is kind of like a young, not exactly young, but an old competitor. He's an old prospect. He's not a young prospect in the light heavyweight division. He's a old prospect, which is really weird. How can you be old and a prospect? Well, it is what it is. Azmat is undefeated. I remember seeing one of his fights where he knocked out his opponent. That was it Reds? No, Alonso Monifield. Like, he knocked out Alonso Monifield at a decision win against Dustin Jacoby. And prior to that, he has had a number of fights in UFC. Like, since 2022, he has been a part of UFC. That is good. Like, he has been in UFC for the last 3 years, but he has not really fought that many times. Fought once in 2024, fought once in 2025, and now fighting in 2025 for the second time. And arguably, not even arguably, like, he's fighting his best challenge. He's only 5'10". That is pretty small for the light heavyweight division. 5'10" is pretty small for the welterweight division. And he is light heavyweight and still 5'10". That's interesting. He will be much smaller compared to Alexander Rakic. I kind of want to pick Rakic to win because Rakic he has faced better competition. Like, look at it. Magomed Ankalaev, Yuri Pachkaj, and Lahovic, like, all three of them are really dangerous fighters. Like, all three of them are former champions. Magomed Ankalaev, former champion. Yuri Prohaska, former champion. Jan Blachowicz, former champion. So, and lost to Volkan Oezdemir by a split decision. That is shit. That is shit. You should not lose to Volkan Oezdemir. But Alexander Rakic is a really talented fighter. Like, not exactly talented, but he is a really good striker. He's a really technical striker. But the problem is he does not really push the action really. He does not really have good pressure on his opponents. He does not really put a lot of pressure on his opponents. And he has had a leg injury in 2022. Made a comeback in 2024. Lost that fight. Fought once again in October 2024. Lost that fight against Magomed Ankalaev. Apparently, currently, Alexander Rakic is training with John Jones in New Mexico. So there is a chance that with John Jones in his corner, with John Jones in his gym, he might have more experience. He might have a better game plan with better coaches, with better team. But still, I'm going to go with Azmat Murzakanov to win this one, probably by unanimous decision because he's 36. If he loses, it's not a big deal for him. Kado's a warrior tribe. He fights out of New Jersey. Interesting. Does not look like a person from New Jersey, but it is what it is. Yeah, he's undefeated. I genuinely do not know who to pick. But still, I'm going to go in Azmat Murzakanov because this is a near even kind of a situation. But he looks like he has a better odds, 115 versus 105. I'm going to go with Azmat Murzakanov to win this one, probably by a split decision against Alexander Rakic. I'm not 100% sure about it, but still. Again, this is taking place in Abu Dhabi. So, Azmat is going to win this by unanimous, by a split decision or unanimous decision. Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. Alexander Volkov is ranked number 2 in the heavyweight division and Jailton Almeida is ranked number 3. Jailton Almeida was undefeated in UFC that he lost to Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades knocked him out in the second round with hammer fist. And after that, he has defeated Alexander Romanov and Sergey Spivak. This is a solid, classic striker versus grappler kind of a battle, which we used to see back in the early UFCs. Because Jailton Almeida is a really good grappler. He uses and utilizes his grappling to the best of his abilities to win fights in UFC. He has done it for a really long period of time. And he's fighting against Alexander Volkov, who is predominantly a striker. Now, can Almeida defeat Volkov? There is a possibility. If the fight stays on the ground, then Almeida is definitely submitting Volkov. If not submitting, he's going to win by unanimous decision like he did against Derek Lewis. where he just laid on top of Derek Lewis for 5 rounds and defeated him. And if the fight stays on the feet, then I believe Alexander Volkov will probably knock out Jailton Almeida, because Volkov is a much better striker and he's also 36 years old. But then again, that is the heavyweight division. Age does not really matter a lot in the heavyweight division because it's more about power. And recently, Volkov has seemed to bulk up, and ever since he has bulked up, he has not really lost. And he did lose to Cyril Gane, but that in that fight, I believe he should have won that fight. But the judges, I think this fight probably took place in some weird, I don't know why the judges gave it to Cyril Gane. But still, Cyril Gane defeated him by split decision. I'm going to go with Alexander Volkov to win this one, probably by a unanimous decision or maybe a knockout. Maybe Jailton Almeida will just throw Alexander Volkov. There is a huge possibility of that, but still, I'm going to go with Volkov to win this one by unanimous decision or maybe a knockout. Another interesting fight. A really, really interesting fight. Umar Nurmagomedov and Mario Bautista. Mario Bautista is on a roll. I believe he's on an 8-5 winning streak. Yep, he's on an 8-5 winning streak. He is 32, pretty much in his prime. And this is going to be his run if he somehow manages to defeat Umar Nurmagomedov, which I don't think he will. If Mario Bautista manages to defeat Umar Nurmagomedov, then he will defeat Merab Dvalishvili. That is my word. Personally, that is going to happen if he manages to defeat Umar, which I don't think he will. He is 5'9", pretty big for the featherweight division. Not exactly that big, but he's big. Like, he's a big guy for the featherweight division. And he has defeated Petchy Mix. Petchy Mix is shit. Jose Aldo, that's a good win. But then again, a split decision against the 40-year-old Jose Aldo does not really make a lot of sense. Defeated Demon Lexier, defeated Ricky Simon. Okay, Ricky Simon has not been looking that good. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Benito Lopez and all of these fighters. He's a well-rounded fighter, not exactly well-rounded. He is bad everywhere. He's like mid-level everywhere. He's a decent striker, decent grappler. He's not exactly a grappler that'll take you down. He's more of a grappler that'll just push you against the cage and hold you against the cage and not let you move and basically win somehow, like get a win. On the other hand, he's fighting against Umar Nurmagomedov, who's a really dynamic kicker, arguably one of the best kickers in all of UFC, who's kind of in his prime. In his last fight, he had a really close fight against Merab Dvalishvili. He did win that fight. He did lose that fight by unanimous decision. But still, that was a really close fight, and he arguably gave the toughest fight to Merab. And of course, defeating Merab is not an easy task. There are very few people. I don't see anybody defeating Merab correctly. And prior to that, he defeated Boris Sandayan by unanimous decision. Pegzat Almakan, again, that guy is not exactly that good. Defeated Hani Barcelos, finished 9 points. Umar has not really been tested that much, but he was tested by the best bantamweight in the planet and arguably the greatest bantamweight fighter of all time, that is Merab. And he did give a really tough fight to Merab Dvalishvili. So Umar is genuinely talented fighter. I mean, a lot of people say that he was gifted an empty shot. He gets that privilege because he's a cousin of Habib and he's from Team Habib. That is the reason he gets a lot of, and I don't think that is all. He's genuinely a talented fighter. But apart from like Merab, who was able to do anything remotely dangerous against Umar. So I'm going to go with Umar to win this one by unanimous decision. Also, this fight is taking place in Abu Dhabi. If Mario Bautista wants to get a win against Umar Nurmagomedov, he will have to choke him out and finish him. He'll literally have to choke him out. Like, he'll have to knock him out. And I genuinely do not see Mario Bautista having the tools to knock out Umar Nurmagomedov. So I'm going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov to win this one by a solid unanimous decision. Can Umar submit him? Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think Umar is going to knock out Mario Bautista. I believe Mario Bautista has a good chin. He's really tough. He's pretty durable. So I'm going to go with Umar to win this one by unanimous decision. Just like he did against Corey Sandhagen, I think you will have more control time against Mario Bautista. Because Corey Sandhagen is a better defensive grappler. Like, if you take him to the ground, then he will try to get back up on his feet. I don't think we have not seen Mario get tested by anybody. So I'm going to go with Umar to win this one by a solid unanimous decision. Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. Interesting fight. Can Virna Jandiroba defeat Mackenzie Dern? I do not really want to talk too much about this fight because it's women's MMA and Mackenzie Dern has not been looking really that great. She's on a 2-fight winning streak and she immediately gets a title shot. I don't know why. She defeated Amanda Ribas by an armbar. And then prior to that, won against Lupita Godinez, lost to Amanda Lemos, and lost to Jessica Odrach back in 2023. And lost Amanda Lemos in 2024. And yeah, Lupita Godinez won. I'm gonna go with like in their last fight, Mackenzie Dern, I believe she won a split decision against Virna Jandiroba, or maybe a unanimous decision. I'm not exactly 100% sure about it. But in this fight, I'm gonna go. Also, she's really old. She's 37. If this fight goes to the decision, there is a good chance they will give the win to Mackenzie Dern because she is. Yeah, it is more about looks, like who is more promotable. Mackenzie Dern is more promotable compared to Virna Jandiroba. I'm sorry to say that, but it is what this. She has defeated Yan Xiaonan, Amanda Lemos, Lupita Godinez, Orina Rodriguez, Angela Gill. Lost to Amanda Ribas. That is interesting. She lost to Amanda Ribas back in 2021 by unanimous decision. And then she was on a 5-5 winning streak, defeated Yan Xiaonan. I'm going to go with Virna Jandiroba to win this one, probably by unanimous decision against Mackenzie Dern. On me a casual, but I think that is what is going to happen. Or maybe Mackenzie Dern will win this fight. I genuinely do not care. I'm going to go with Virna Jandiroba. Main event, Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane for the baddest man on the planet, that is UFC Heavyweight Championship. Now, Tom Aspinall is a heavy favorite. And the reason he's the heavy favorite is because of his grappling. And we have seen that Cyril Gane is a bad grappler. He lost the grappling match against Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou dominated him with his grappling, even though Francis Ngannou is not exactly a world-class grappler. And in his last fight, not in his last fight, but in his fight against John Jones took him down and submitted him in the very first round within 2 minutes 4 seconds by John Jones. And that was after John Jones probably took like a 3-year break or a 2-year break and came back and knocked him out. So if there is a weakness in Cyril Gane's game, and then that is going to be his grappling. And Tom Aspinall is a significantly good grappler. Like, he's arguably one of the best grapplers in UFC, despite all the divisions. And of course, he has defeated Sergey Spivak and Alexander Volkov. And that Volkov fight was a really dicey fight. Like, he was not supposed to, there was not a clear-cut win. Like, he won a split decision, but that fight could have been a draw. That fight could have gone to Volkov as well. He's 35. He's older than Tom Aspinall. So that is interesting. Tom Aspinall is still the youngest fighter in heavyweight top 10, I believe. I believe he's the youngest fighter in the heavyweight division in top 10. Really interesting, right? Tom Aspinall, as we all know, 6'5", really good boxer, has really phenomenal good boxing. I think Cyril Gane will be the better kicker. I think when it comes to boxing, I believe Aspinall might be the better boxer, but Cyril Gane has good kickboxing. He has good distance management. His tip kicks are really good. His leg kicks are really good. He's going to stay on the outside and he'll try to attack more on Tom Aspinall. But I believe Tom Aspinall is smart enough to utilize his grappling. And I have seen in the past that Tom Aspinall has always said that he's more interested in grappling. Like, he's a smart fighter. Like, unlike a lot of other fighters, he has openly said that if he fights against Alex Pereira, he will try to take down Alex Pereira and choke him out in the very first round. So that shows that he does not really have a lot of ego, but rather a smart fighter who has good fight IQ. I believe if the fight goes to the round, I believe Tom Aspinall will be capable of submitting Cyril Gane. If not submitting, then at least winning with ground and power. I believe that Tom Aspinall can do that. And Tom Aspinall will be a really big guy. Cyril Gane is 6'4", Tom Aspinall is 6'5". Like, these two are really good heavyweights. And every other fighter that Cyril Gane has fought has been an obese fighter, apart from John Jones and Alexander Volkov and Francis Ngannou, of course. Francis Ngannou, not an obese fighter, defeated Cyril Gane. John Jones, not exactly an obese fighter, defeated Cyril Gane. And apart from that, who else? Alexander Volkov had a really close fight against Cyril Gane. So I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall to win this fight, probably by ground and pound in the second round or maybe first round for Tom Aspinall. If the fight goes longer, then I favor Cyril Gane winning it more. But then again, we have not seen Cyril Gane win a fight in 5 rounds. His only fight that went 5 rounds was against Francis Ngannou, and he lost the fight. So I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall to win this one by ground and pound, or maybe some kind of submission, maybe a heel hook, or maybe a triangle or something crazy. I'm going to repeat my picks. Should I repeat my picks? Not exactly. I guess that is it from today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, then drop a like and subscribe. And peace out, guys. Peace out.